Hello everybody and welcome back to The Sit Down. In today's episode, we're going to get into a few of the highlights that have been taking place in the world of boxing over the last few days since I last spoke to you. So starting off, let's talk a little bit about the fight that we saw last night, which was Raymond Muratalla versus Andy Cruz, and it was for the IBF Lightweight World title. So ultimately, the majority decision landed on Raymond Muratalla retaining his world title. But man, what a fight it was. It was super competitive, so many ebbs and flows, so much back and forth. It was genuinely high-level boxing. I want to start with talking about the scorecards because they were interesting. So one judge had it 114 to 114 as a draw, which I could definitely see having watched the fight, although I did have Muratalla up by a couple of points at the end of the fight. But I can see how a judge would have viewed it as a draw because it was so competitive. Another judge had it at 116 to 112 in favor of Muratalla, which is a little bit wider than I would potentially have it. But again, I can say, okay, yeah, that one's all right. Another judge had it at 118 to 110. Now, there is no way watching that fight you would have it at 118 to 110. And I, for one, I don't know about you guys, but I, for one, am pretty tired of some judging decisions which just absolutely blow your mind as a boxing fan. It happens too often, and I'm just wondering, like, what is the solution here? You know, what can we do to prevent that happening in future? Because sometimes you're looking at these judges' scorecards and you're like, what are you smoking? Because that just can't fly. And this was very much a case of that. It just can't fly. Like, the fight was, yeah, as I said, very competitive. Going into the fight, Muratalla's record was 23-0. Obviously, a wealth of experience behind him. Andy Cruz's professional record, 6-0. So on paper, definitely looks like there's a huge disparity. But do bear in mind that Andy Cruz, you know, amateur superstar, Olympic gold medalist, you know, Cuban, the footwork was just impeccable. Probably not the same style of Cuban boxer as you would imagine when someone says Cuban boxer. However, you know, what he does so well. He's defensively so sound, and his footwork is impeccable. What you did see in the fight, at least this is what I took from it, you know, it felt like Muratalla's experience really worked in his favor. He did old man him, and I don't mean that as an age thing, because I actually believe Andy Cruz is like a year older or a year younger than him, but they're very similar in age. But what I mean when I say old man him is in terms of their records and in terms of Muratalla's professional experience. He's a really interesting boxer to watch. Like, the hand speed is really fantastic, but also he doesn't really put his whole weight behind so many of the shots. He changes in tempo and speed, and I think it can be quite offbeat and off rhythm, which can be confusing for a boxer, his opponent. But ultimately, I think the first 7-8 rounds were extremely close, and Muratalla came on very strong in the latter few rounds of the fight, which is kind of a part of his repertoire. He's known for being a fighter that comes on really strong in the later rounds. So ultimately he got that decision, but I'm really excited to see what Andy Cruz does next. I don't think his stock diminishes in any way, shape or form. You know, he took that fight on knowing that his record was at a huge disparity, and he made such a good account of himself. It's the first time he's gone the distance. So we were all kind of wondering, like, what would he look like in the later portion of a fight at that length? So yeah, really exciting future ahead of Andy Cruz, I'm sure. But credit to Raymond Muratalla, who put on a very exciting display. Definitely go check it out if you haven't watched it. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, you know, the way that the boxing news has developed around Jai Opetaia. So obviously last week we saw Jai Opetaia sign with Zuffa Boxing. This is going to be Dana White's new venture in boxing. And it's a little bit confusing. There seems to be a bit of mixed messaging, because ultimately when Zuffa first came, Zuffa, I don't know how exactly you say it, but when they first came on the scene, there was lots of talk about the abolition of the Muhammad Ali Act, There was lots of talk around, not recognising the sanctioning bodies and the belts, and there's been some sort of clapback from Mauricio Solomon of the WBC. So there is this whole confusion around, how is Zuffa going to incorporate the belts, or are they not going to incorporate the belts? Then they signed Jai Opetaia. Jai is obviously the IBF and ring title cruiserweight champion. So he's got these belts. He's looking to unify. He hasn't been afforded the opportunities that I think all of us would agree that he's deserved. Those fights haven't been made for him for whatever reasons. Other champions have been tied up. It just hasn't come to fruition. So anyway, he wants to make a change. He pivots. He signs with Zuffa Boxing. We're all thinking, well, what's the journey to Undisputed going to look like for you if Zuffa are talking about not incorporating the belts into their business plan, I don't know, commercial plan, whatever you want to call it? Then Zuffa have their first boxing event last week on Friday, and you see Jai Opetaia facing off against Noel Mikaelian, who is the WBC cruiserweight champion. And then, of course, there's this talk about the two respective cruiserweight champions being lined up to fight each other on March 8th, which is going to be the Zuffa Boxing event that Jai Opetaia has his Zuffa debut on. And this is going to be, hopefully, if all goes according to plan, this is going to be a cruiserweight unification bout, which will see Opetaia's IBF and ring title belts put on the line, as well as Mikaelian's WBC. Now, if this goes ahead, this is a perfect opportunity for Jai. It's what he's needed. It's what he's been looking for. And I think most of us would favourably lean towards him unifying, becoming IBF, ring title and WBC cruiserweight champion. And then he's just set up so well to face off against one of the other cruiserweight kings. So yes, hopefully that all goes to plan, and hopefully there's a little bit more clarity around Zuffa's plans around the belts. Lastly, the thing I wanted to touch on is a potential heavyweight British dust-up against JEAMIE TKV, who's the current British heavyweight champion, and Johnny Fisher. So really interesting one, because we see Johnny Fisher this week post up something on Instagram saying that it will be an honour for him to fight for the Lonsdale belt. Obviously, the Lonsdale belt is something that, has a lot of cachet, has a lot of status, particularly in the UK. It's the British belt. And Johnny Fisher, of course would like to face and to challenge JEAMIE TKV for it. JEAMIE TKV won the British belt not long ago. He won it against Fraser Clark in a really close, really competitive dust-up. So it would be really interesting. I think that, personally, I really like Johnny Fisher as a guy. I think he's really done so much for himself. Obviously he's not had this massive pedigree. He's kind of come into boxing and he's managed to, based on the fact that he's so commercially viable, he sells so many tickets and he's such a nice guy as well. He's done a really, he's made some really good steps in the sport. I think that I would lean heavily towards JEAMIE TKV getting that win over Johnny Fisher, but definitely a fight I want to see. The post that Johnny put up said that the terms and money have been agreed by both fighters and management, and there was a call to action for promoters Eddie Hearn and Ben Shalom, Matchroom and Boxer respectively, to make it happen. So yes, that would be an interesting one. I'm intrigued to know what you think. Do you think that Johnny Fisher stands a chance of winning against JEAMIE TKV? Do you think that fight will take place? I would also love to hear your opinions on the Jai Opetaia versus Noel Mikaelian unification bout on Zuffa Boxing. What are your thoughts here? It's a really exciting time. We're just at the start of 2026 and it's already gearing up to be a really juicy year. So yeah, stay tuned. Guys, in the meantime, don't forget to comment, like, share and subscribe. And we look forward to catching you on the next episode of The Sit Down.